Himawari or Boruto, either of them could be the key that helps Sarada awaken the Rinnegan. Or, in another scenario, Boruto and Himawari might accidentally trigger Sarada's Rinnegan awakening. Yeah, I know this sounds crazy and kinda makes no sense, but just hear me out till the end. I'm Nim, without the E. Let's talk about a wild Sarada theory that I'm sure is both interesting and actually pretty reasonable. So, yeah, I think after a few days ago, there was a pretty interesting confirmation about Sarada's Sharingan eyes having a probability of blindness. Of course, there is another probability that is quite interesting for Sarada herself. But what needs to be underlined is that some of these things are certainly based on the lore in the Naruto story itself. So, since the context here is Boruto, Himawari, and Sarada, we must at least understand their lineage, right? Because in the end, we cannot ignore the fact that the three of them have the same lineage, which originates from Otsutsuki himself. But in the case of Boruto and Himawari, I think they are more special. What I mean is, their lineage from the Otsutsuki is not only from their father, but also their mother. Because of course, Boruto and Hima are the direct descendants of Naruto and Hinata. And Boruto in particular is now an Otsutsuki, which is an added value or privilege that could be considered as supporting this seemingly crazy theory. And all of this leads to one word that can be called transfusion or transplantation. Yeah, for Naruto and Boruto fans, I'm sure this isn't something strange for you because it will certainly sound very familiar. But how can Boruto or Hima, especially Sarada herself, activate the Rinnegan? Of course, you have to remember the concept of how Madara or Sasuke activated the Rinnegan, which also came from the Uchiha clan. What I mean is, as Uchiha, they couldn't really awaken the Rinnegan on their own without a cell or something similar from the Ashura lineage, right? And as some examples that support this theory, we also know how history has proven that Madara is one of them. I mean, as the first Uchiha from Indra Otsutsuki's lineage to awaken the Rinnegan, Madara used Hashirama Senju's DNA, which came from Ashura's lineage, to transplant his cells into Madara's body. And even though this was not an instant process because it took a long time, almost his entire life, at least with a mixture or combination of Indra's and Ashura's DNA, Madara had a fairly high probability of eventually awakening the Rinnegan. On the other hand, it's actually not accurate to say that Sasuke truly awakened the Rinnegan without any kind of transplant or external help from an Ashura descendant. The main difference between Sasuke and Madara is that Sasuke directly received chakra from Hagoromo himself, which ultimately granted him the Rinnegan we know as Sasuke's Six Tomoe Rinnegan. So at this point, the general requirement for Uchiha, especially Sarada, to be able to awaken the Rinnegan is that she must first fulfill the first requirement. That is, she must already have the Mangekyo Sharingan and not just the ordinary Sharingan, because Mangekyo Sharingan means Sarada has managed to evolve her eyes. However, there are two other requirements Sarada must fulfill to awaken the Rinnegan. The first is that Sarada needs the chakra of Ashura or Uzumaki, or an alternative like her father, that is, obtaining chakra from Hagoromo Otsutsuki. But it seems like we can ignore the second case, because besides being impossible, there's no logical reason to bring Hagoromo into the Boruto series, especially if the case is the same as Sasuke's, right? But the point is, if you've forgotten, at least that's the process of how Sarada can awaken the Rinnegan. And one thing that is absolutely non-negotiable is that Boruto and Himawari themselves will be the answer for Sarada to awaken the Rinnegan. Then if you ask what the actual scenario is that makes Sarada truly awaken the Rinnegan, this might sound quite reasonable. But disclaimer, this is just a theory and analysis from a Boruto addict. So yeah, first let's start with Himawari. We know that one of Himawari's abilities is to regenerate wounds, which may even be impossible. What I mean is, so far, there has been no damage or anything fatal that cannot be completely healed. With Kurama's chakra and Himawari's existence, who is not just a Jinchuriki, Himawari has a special ability that is certainly superior to that of a Jinchuriki. And in this case, if it is later proven in a battle between Sarada and Shinju that Sarada almost loses her eyesight due to overuse of her technique, Himawari could be the answer at this point and give her some of her chakra directly. And even though the mechanism is similar to Naruto sharing Kurama's chakra with the Fourth Shinobi Alliance, these are actually two different things. What I mean is, Himawari's chakra could be a plot twist that prevents Sarada from going blind or even indirectly triggers the awakening of the Rinnegan. Yeah, I know this might sound ridiculous, but don't forget that Himawari was once rumored to be Hagoromo's successor. So, you know what I mean, right? And second, through Boruto. And actually, this isn't that different from Himawari herself. I mean, We know that Sarada's reason for becoming strong and becoming Hokage is Boruto. Sarada will do anything, and of course, with her power, she won't let Boruto fight and bear the burden alone. So, based on this principle, this will certainly lead to Sarada facing a battle that may become a problem for Boruto himself. Perhaps threats such as Shinju or even Kawaki himself. If at one point Sarada is truly in a difficult situation because she has to help Boruto in a cornered situation, there will be many scenarios that may sound unreasonable, but could happen. I mean, we know that because of Sarada, Boruto ended up losing his eye at the hands of Kawaki. If there are several scenarios that repeat themselves like this scene, perhaps one of the best options is to make it the opposite. That is, Sarada, who initially only made Boruto suffer more because of the loss of his eye, will actually be the one who truly protects Boruto until the very end. Saying that Boruto will always be on top and never in a desperate situation is, in my opinion, too naive. Right? Besides that, we have to remember why Koji chose the risky path of awakening Sarada's Sharingan. Surely, Koji knew that Sarada's ability would be a help to Boruto himself. But if something really bad were to happen to Sarada, there's no way Boruto would just stay quiet and do nothing, right? Remember guys, Boruto made a promise to Sasuke to protect and take care of Sarada. Now, the correlation between awakening the Rinnegan and Boruto is what you need to consider. Is it possible that as an Otsutsuki, Boruto will not have a special ability to transfer or something like that in the future? I mean, with his Uzumaki and Senju heritage, especially since Boruto is an Otsutsuki, channeling chakra seems like a normal thing to do, right? Yeah, I know this might sound like nonsense, but who knows, right? And in conclusion, some small things we've seen, like Himawari healing Sarada's wounds by transferring Kurama's chakra to her, may not be a real reason, but at least it could be a consideration and a plot twist in the future. Because some small and trivial things often end up with plot twists we never imagined. And that also means that both Boruto and Himawari actually have too many scenarios that will intentionally, or even unintentionally, help Sarada awaken her Rinnegan eyes. A combination of DNA from her legendary predecessors seems like it will really make Sarada get her Rinnegan eyes. But perhaps the question is the Rinnegan still relevant in the current era? And can Himawari or Boruto's chakra trigger the awakening of Sarada's Rinnegan? Honestly, I am very confident that this will happen. Sarada may find herself in a very dangerous and life-threatening situation. But because of plot armor, Sarada will probably survive and even gain a great power like the Rinnegan. You should also know that Sasuke is a character with plot armor that is sometimes unreasonable and completely unpredictable. Yeah, you should understand this, right? But that's just how it is. So, at the end of the day, it's not just about chakra. Boruto and Himawari probably have the potential to trigger Sarada's Rinnegan awakening. Because in the end, they're the only two who seem truly relevant enough to help Sarada reach the same kind of true power as her Uchiha predecessors. So yeah, if you have any alternatives or other theories about how Sarada awakens the Rinnegan, please let me know. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye-bye, Dada Bio.